you started at a you started at an art school. You came from West Baltimore, born and raised in West Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
You were not, you were going to football, and you went the other direction. Am I correct? Is that how that happened?
Football was a dream.
Okay.
Yeah, I played little league.
Okay.
And I played semi-pro.
What position did you play?
And Pop Warner, running back.
Okay.
Outside linebacker.
Okay.
Kickoff return, stuff like that. And semi-pro, I played wide out, special teams, kickoff return.
Okay.
Slot receiver.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Okay. And so, let me ask you a question. You paint a lot of murals in Baltimore. How did you get there? Like, what made you get there?
In the late 1990s,
Uh-huh.
I was approached by Gary Cacciadorian, who at the time worked at the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Art and Culture.
Okay.
That has since merged with Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts.
Right.
But there was a time when it was literally Mayor's Advisory Committee of Art and Culture.
Okay.
And he saw my work and he thought that it would look good on a grander scale.
Okay.
So that's how I got my first mural.
Okay. And when you did that mural, what mural was that?
It was a mural on the corner of Hollins and Calverton in Southwest Baltimore. I think that's the Boyd Booth neighborhood.
Okay.
Over near Bond
What
Security.
What was the design?
It was an image of children playing at a fire hydrant in the summertime.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's an image that I had captured. There were children playing at the fire hydrant on the corner of Lyndhurst and Gelston.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Lyndhurst and Cranston Avenue in the village. And my mom sent me outside to turn it off.
Okay.
But I told the children, I said, listen, I'll let you play if you let me shoot a reel.
All right.
Of you.
Okay.
Let me get a couple shots. It was 35 millimeter. This was before digital cameras, really.
Okay.
The digital camera boom. So they let me take some images of them. Then I turned it off and got the film developed. And when I got my first mural, I chose one of those images. Okay. And I painted it.
Now I gotta ask you. You won some awards in Baltimore. You won some awards and got residence in the motor house. Mm-hmm. And you did a one that was the Testify in 2019.
The exhibition.
Yeah, the exhibition. Tell me about that. Tell me about the exhibition that you did.
So my soror, Jess Solomon,
okay,
at the time was working.
From what fraternity?
I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma.
Okay.
Happy belated Founders Day.
And I got you on my show for Founders.
Well, technically it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
It rained all day yesterday, so
it did.
So we have a duo.
It did.
So yeah, Jess Solomon had approached me about doing an exhibition of my work. It was my 50th year rotating the planet.
Right.
So I combined summer celebration, exhibition of my work, and celebrated my 50th birthday.
Okay.
In July. I'm born in August, but in July of 2019.
Okay.
But it was that exhibition, most of those works exhibited were created during a sabbatical I took from Baltimore City Public Schools.
Okay.
So during that sabbatical, I created this body of work. Mostly we exhibited it during the summer. And from that time, I would say my career has taken some steps.
Some steps. Okay.
Yeah, let's just say that.
And so that exhibition is what got you a little bit higher than what you were before.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It also proved to myself that because I worked harder that year than I did any year.
That's the reason why I asked you about
teaching in Baltimore City Public Schools.
There's a reason I asked you about that one because I feel like once I looked at the work, I think that was like a pivotal moment for you. I mean, that's what I seen out of the work, and I was like, oh yeah, that's it right there. You talk about public schools, you talk about the impacts. Let's unpack that about public schools, right? I'm originally born from Miami, Florida, and like I said, I've got my first opportunity in Baltimore. And during that time, when I moved here, I've been working in Baltimore for 8 years. But during the 8 years I've been working here, and what I've learned from Baltimore, the public schools are failing us. Do you feel like your artwork or you're inspirational to young youth in the community? Because I know that you are a instructor at some higher education institutions, and and you used to be a teacher in public schools. Tell me about how you feel like you pay it forward or some in public schools, and give me some information about that.
You know, next to my parents,
okay,
and a few family, I have to say that I would not have achieved half of what I've achieved without good teachers,
right,
and mentors.
Right.
As early as kindergarten. I remember the first time
Right.
the art teacher in kindergarten held my work up
Okay.
as an exemplar.
Okay.
And I know what that felt like.
Right.
He was an outstanding art teacher.
Yeah.
But I've had some good academic and excellent art teachers all the way up through college.
Okay.
So I have to say I owe a lot of, if you want to call it, success.
Right.
Again, being from West Baltimore, you would have to say that when I have conversations with the few friends that are still around,
yeah,
we talk about the many young brothers that grew up with us that are no longer with us.
Okay.
Right?
Through violence, through street violence, through.
Well,
when you say no longer with us, what do you mean by that?
So, growing up in an urban environment, there are many factors that can illness.
Yes.
Due to food deserts, unhealthy eating practices, fallen victim to drugs, poverty, poor education, you know, things of that nature, health care.
Yes. So you said you had influential educators back then. I remember having influential educators. Like I remember loving going to school. Right now, this generation, they don't love going to school anymore. I don't in the caliber of education that's given to our youth it's probably not the same caliber that we had when we were younger. Do you feel like that has an effect on Baltimore City when it comes to the growth and in our Black communities?
Oh, absolutely. I tell folks all the time, if when they're shining a negative light on the young people, whether we're talking about the media or what have you.
Yeah, I don't even want to say shining a light, a negative light. I don't even want to say that. It's just
okay, fair. That's fair. Let's just say doing an assessment.
Okay,
right?
I'll take this.
No judgment, doing an assessment. I say, well, pull their academic record.
Right.
And I'm talking about from first grade up through.
Correct.
And you'll be able to see specifically where
they start to drop off.
I remember I've had excellent schooling.
Right.
But I remember when I became disinterested in certain subjects.
I would see by ninth grade they dropped out.
By ninth grade,
yeah,
but the disinterest comes at like third grade.
Does it?
Yeah, especially for boys.
Really?
Yeah, data suggests by third. Well, if you want to, and you can easily find this information.
Okay.
Youth jails and prisons are built based on third grade academic data. Data, right?
Yep.
So there's something about second, third, fourth grade, where they can begin to predict,
right,
what's systemically what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
So, but again, this is the point I really want to drive home. The education system is in the condition it's in, not because teachers aren't working hard.
Yeah.
The teachers are not doing their job.
Oh yeah, they're
per
doing
se.
their job
right.
with the tools they have.
So it's not due to a lack of sweat equity.
I would agree with that.
I would argue, however, that the education system is, I don't know if let's say outdated.
It is very outdated.
It's very outdated.
Yes.
So
and it's not doing our kids a good service. Do you want to think? Do you want to think? We talk about maybe it's the budget.
No, I don't think it's money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if
where the money
maybe
is
a lack,
allocated.
maybe a lack thereof.
A lack thereof.
So if we're talking, but
because you look at tools and resources, like how do you get those tools and resources? You get them from money, right? Mm-hmm. And so if their money is coming through and you see the budgets happening in City Hall, and that money, they're saying the money's going to go here in education. Do you see that money going where they say it's going to go?
For the most part, city and state funding does end up
where it's supposed to
where it's supposed to end up, right?
Right.
The issue, though, is, again, no matter how much money you throw at the system, if the paradigm of thinking that's shaping curriculum,
right,
that's shaping professional development for teachers,
yes,
if it's outdated, it doesn't matter how much money you spend.
So I'm gonna ask you about those youth,
and
you have a painting with the squeegee kids on it, and the squeegee kids have. I never have a problem with the squeegee kids. Right. You know what I mean? Like when I see them, I remember one time I was sitting on North Avenue, right where the exits to go off from the highway by Micah.
83.
Yes, off of Micah.
North of Mount Royal.
Yes, in Mount Royal. And there was a young man that was squeegeeing, and then there was a homeless white guy asking for money. And it looked like he was trying to get money to go pay for lunch. It was early in the morning. Like, you should have been going to school, right? And he took some of his money out of his pocket and gave it to the white guy that was paying him to live. I gave him $10 for that. Right. Because I felt like, yo, you out here hustling while this white man's out here begging. So in my mind, I'm like, that was very humbling of you to like say, yo, like I'm gonna give you some of this money. When you didn't have to do that, right? Right. So when we look at the squeegee kids, when you look at the school systems, and you look at what we discussed, how do you think they got there? Like, why are they there? So is our school system telling them that they have to get there? So on your page you have the squeegee kid. Why do you have the squeegee kid on that page? Tell me how it all correlates to what we just talked about with budget, education, structures.
So yeah, I'm doing a series of squeegee workers, right, largely because many of them young men, not all. Right. As an educator, it's clear to me that, again, if you go and pull their academic record, I guarantee you almost to a person, there's some there are issues there. Right. Maybe a diagnosis or misdiagnosis of some type of behavioral or cognitive, right, issue, so to speak. But my approach in dealing with them is different. I've never had an issue with them. Right?
Yeah.
Because I approach them in a humane fashion.
Humane way. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of our communities, humanity. Right? Yeah. But I want to know, if you see that, who do we hold accountable for what's happening?
Anytime folks critique young people, I try to remind them that it's learned behavior. However they act, it is learned behavior.
But who do we hold accountable?
Well, I'm a Gen Xer.
Right.
So you have to hold Gen Xers accountable.
So me and you probably will hold us accountable?
Absolutely.
So, so do you hold your community leaders accountable?
So, when you say community leaders, like, who you talking about?
I mean, like, it could be pastors, it could be mentors, it could be politicians. Okay. I mean, those all are part of community leaders, right?
So here's my question, right?
Right.
I would first ask, how do you define community?
Right.
Right? Because community leaders, when we were growing up, you would say pastors, maybe school principals, politicians, community activists.
Right.
I think the definition of community has changed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not sure that community is I don't know if we still have a community.
We do not have a community, and I will definitely say like that's missing. Mm-hmm. How are you making an impact of your art for that?
So I do,
because it is activism that you're doing. We're gonna talk about that part.
So again, I appreciate that, but I would not use the word activism.
Okay.
I would use the word maybe more alchemy.
I like that.
Right.
Word.
Because there are some folks, Aaron Maben, for example,
yes,
who is using his artwork in an activist way.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And there are others. Someone named Lady Breon,
yes,
who was one of my former students.
Yes, yes.
She's using her gifts as a poet.
Okay.
And as a spoken word artist.
Yes.
In a way, in an activist way.
Yes.
So I don't want to, in an attempt to be respectful of the work that they do, I prefer to use the word alchemy.
I like that word.
You know,
I like that word. And so now let's talk about. So let's talk about you. And when it comes to Freddie Gray. Mm-hmm. You had a video about that.
In what context? 2015.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I. Yeah. Wait, what? You want to take a drink on that one first?
I'll take a sip. That's almost 10 years ago.
No, I know, but that video you made, I did some research. Mm-hmm. I think it was a great video.
I've learned a lot since then.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Drink on that. Let's drink on that. So I can regress. You want me to regress this a little?
No, you good. Mm-hmm. You good.
So you had spoke about. I think people have voices. Yes, when they're tired of being sick and tired, mm-hmm. they protest, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to third world countries, when you go to international countries, they protest. Because poverty, economy's dropping, they're tired, they protest. Mm-hmm. But when they protest for the leadership to be removed, right? Because they're the ones that are creating this issue. Mm-hmm. When you think about West Baltimore, mm-hmm. when I first got my job here, mm-hmm. a lot of the returning citizens were coming back to West Baltimore. Mm-hmm. The systematic racism that's happened, the school system that's failed them, mm-hmm. all these things play a part. The politicians that's failed them, that say we're going to do this, but don't do that. Like that was to protest in your own community, but what did that solve? Like, what did it solve, right? So how do you feel now, 10 years later, what has changed from that, if anything has changed, mm-hmm. and how can you be influential that in your art and in the community? Because you're a professor. You're not just an artist, you're a professor. You're an influential person in your community. How do you do that? Mm-hmm.
Well, one, again, I try not to have any unrealistic expectations of politicians or leaders,
okay.
Right?
Why would you say that?
Because if the framework from which I view issues in the community mm-hmm. is one that is void of fault finding.
Okay.
And I have to, give respect to Baba Henry Gregory.
Okay.
Dr. Henry Gregory. Who highlights fault finding as a way to, or at least to not engage in fault finding when attempting to find solutions.
Okay.
So I'm not going to point the finger at the politicians.
We're not pointing fingers, but we got to hold somebody accountable. When does accountability play a role?
So somebody.
Some people, the system, something.
So accountability always starts at home.
Yes.
In the mirror.
Yes.
That's when.
So when you take accountability, then what do we do next?
So again, if each of us hold ourselves accountable, mm-hmm. the system will fix itself.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But it has to start with individuals, then household, then community.
Okay.
The leadership really is not there to fix problems.
Okay.
The leadership, they're representations of us.
Okay.
They are a reflection of the community. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have a role and responsibility.
Okay.
Some of them I think have done a wonderful job. Some of
Yes.
them, but I'm saying as long as we're looking to someone, no one's coming to save us, right?
Yes.
As long as we're looking to someone, when in actuality there are things I can do, literally I can do.
Yes.
So I paint pictures on walls.
So and we're
right?
gonna. So you had said
Mm-hmm.
you had did a painting in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You had a partnership with Life Water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a painting in Atlanta, and that painting was very. It was one situation, and then it became another situation. Tell me about that.
Real quickly, I had been hired to come down and paint.
Okay.
So I've painted, I've done paintings, murals in
Yes.
other cities,
Yes.
right? Uh, through attending community meetings, which was part of the understanding.
Right.
That I couldn't just come paint. I had to attend some community meetings.
Okay.
Same thing in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Same thing you do.
Yeah. You had to do the dance.
I come to find out that the mural I was painting was perceived as a tool for gentrification.
Yes.
Right? And I'm an out of town artist.
Yes.
So once I became aware of that, that had an impact on my design.
Yes.
I still painted, I still honored the contract.
Yes.
But I created imagery that paid homage to some of those people that were displaced.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's a compromise. I'm not saying that was the be all end all.
Now, when you say for gentrification, were you trying to stop gentrification? Were you moving gentrification in?
Well, it had already happened.
So it had already happened.
It had already happened.
Yeah.
The people had been displaced. The facility was built.
Right. And how did they feel like that mural was gonna? What would they feel like that mural was gonna do?
Well, they didn't know who I was.
Okay.
In the meeting, right? I was there. Right. I was listening. I was a fly on the wall, and I was listening. So they didn't direct any criticism to me.
Okay.
It was criticism toward the program.
Okay.
But I took that information.
Okay.
And I was a little surprised that the design was accepted.
It was already there, though. I mean, or before it originally happened.
Right. I had to submit. I had to submit a design,
and
I was shocked that it was approved.
Really?
Yeah, I was.
Why?
I was. I do have to. I'm not going to name this individual, but I will say someone that was very influential in that. It was a black woman.
Okay.
And the imagery was of a black girl.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think she had some hand in bringing that to fruition.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, you know what? It happened, and it happened for a reason. And so when I when I did my homework on you and all the artwork that you have done in all around Baltimore, your artwork kind of sticks out. It has some way that it's different from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have that blue background a lot of the time. Why do you do that? Why do you pick that color?
A couple reasons. One, second shout out to my brothers of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity.
Yes, that's one.
But more importantly, the color blue in many cultures serves as a color of healing. Mm-hmm. So most of what I do in my work is intentional.
Yes.
Because I understand the power of imagery.
Yes.
If you look at the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, again, I was raised Catholic.
Yes.
But I've taken a lot of art history courses.
Okay.
Ceiling of the Sistine Chapel was painted in, I believe, between 1508 and 1512 by artist Michelangelo, commissioned by the Pope. I think it was Pope Julius II.
Yes.
Anyway, if you look at what was going on in history around that time, what might be called the Age of Enlightenment was being born, age of exploration. Some of those images or images like that was taken around the world.
Okay.
And it assisted in colonizing folk.
Okay.
So in understanding the power of imagery and symbolism, if a mural like that, if understanding how imagery can have an impact on the collective psyche and consciousness of groups of people, why can't my work have that same impact?
And your work does have that impact. Because when I look at it, it's like you're painting one thing, but I can create my own story through that painting. Even though that image is sitting right there, it's relatable however it sits with me.
Mm.
When you talk about, when you say on your website, you talk about racial justice.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed that James Baldwin painting. You have a lot of paintings of James Baldwin.
I do.
And why do you pick James Baldwin as a painting? And how did you create in your mind? Like, how did you come with this thing? Like, I'm gonna paint this, but I'm gonna do it in a way where other people can like see themselves in it and create their own stories. How did that happen?
So first, Baldwin is an inspiration.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's an inspiration to me. Very creative person.
Yes.
Artistically, he's outstanding. But
Yes.
more importantly, he used his work not for his own or not for his self-aggrandizement.
Yes.
He used his work to or for the betterment of his people.
Yes.
You know, his audience, he may have been criticized because his audience, he was speaking to
right.
the oppressors.
The oppressors, yes.
In the language that they best understood.
Best understood.
You know? So, but he was also a fearless individual.
Mm-hmm.
Openly gay.
Openly gay, which was not accepted back then, not even in the black community.
No,
it was a taboo. It still is taboo today.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Uh-huh. So, in addition to that, I just find a lot of depth in his work.
Yes.
An equal amount of depth in actually the structure of his face.
Yes.
So those two go together.
Strong structure.
Strong.
Yeah.
So but so in addition to that, I just try to walk in a path similarly to the Nina Simone's, the James Baldwin, the Toni Morrisons, the Nikki Giovanni's. You know, those folks who use their work. They use their work to make this world a better place.
Yes. And your work definitely does make Baltimore and around the world, because you've been to Colombia, Africa, and tell me one of your favorite places you've been outside of America that has been.
One of my favorite places? Yeah. Or we're gonna take Jamaica off the list.
We're gonna take Jamaica off.
Jamaica's everybody. That's a given. I just love the energy.
Yeah.
You know, and the vibe in Jamaica. But when I went to Colombia, Cali.
Yes, Cali. Yes.
Right. When I went there, I was amazed at how many. I don't necessarily like the term people of color. However, I'll use that for the sake of the discussion.
Why? What do you want to call it?
Because when you say people of color, you're actually framing whiteness.
Let's not use that.
You're centering whiteness.
Not on my platform.
So let's just say.
Are we doing that? I don't know. Not on my platform. I don't like that word.
No.
Like, if you want to use whatever.
I'll say members of the global majority.
Okay.
Let's say that, right?
Okay.
And there are folks who may not like that term.
We can do that.
Let's
do that. Members of the global majority.
It was a lot of black folk.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, that's what they'll say, black folk.
They just spoke Spanish.
Yes.
And I still felt at home. I felt as at home in Cali as I feel in Baltimore.
Yes.
You know, and that was amazing to me.
Yes.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And again, the times I've visited West Africa.
Yes. Now, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can always ask me a question too, whenever you're ready. Like so.
Good to know.
I know that when we talked, like I said, it'll be my third season, my first episode of third season live in person like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when people ask me, or people have asked me, what's your accolades, right? Mm-hmm. I don't like discussing that.
Right.
I hate it. Like, it's just like, I don't want to discuss my accolades because it's not about me, right? Whatever I do through my platform, my podcast, in the community's public service, it's not about me, right? Mm-hmm. But when you circle back around and we talk about Christianity, you also, you grew up in a religious home. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a father that's a pastor. Mm-hmm. I know, Christianity was something that was embedded in me and I hold closely. But then when I go into my praying closet and I say, God, you gave me this gift, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about racism. Mm-hmm. Someone said to me, you can't be racist because you're not powerful. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Black people have always been powerful. Mm-hmm. Even back in civil rights, slavery, we've always been powerful. But when you talk about being powerful, mm-hmm. do you think you're powerful?
I'm not sure. I think I'm influential. I think my work can be influential.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like to use the word powerful.
Okay.
But I also do understand when people say black folk can't be racist
or powerful.
Well, you know,
when you say black, when you say only racist people, only people that can be racist is powerful people, that means that black people. So you're saying, are we not powerful? That's what I'm trying to get. Do you think you're powerful? And when you talk about racial justice, you advocate against racial justice, mm-hmm. but you also are very powerful through your artwork.
Again, I think I would say that I would use the term it could potentially be influential. Okay. If you want to say powerful, that's fine. I'm just saying.
You have a waiting list for your class. Y'all, he has a waiting list for his classes. let's come on. Let's talk about a black man mm-hmm. have a waiting list for your classes mm-hmm. from West Baltimore.
Right. I'm picking up what you put.
You see what I mean? Like,
I just think that sometimes the communication there's things get miscommunicated because folks are defining power from a structure and an institutional.
Now, when I say powerful, I'm not talking about structure.
Right.
I'm talking about ability to change the trajectory of a room. The ability to walk in and say, "That's Ernest Shaw Jr. He's done this, that. I want to hear him speak. I want to hear what he has to say."
I'm still amazed that there are people that care about.
Care
to hear what I have to say.
That's why I'm like, yo, like, do I have the power to mm-hmm. change things? It's really not. We're not talking about the word. We're talking mm-hmm. about the ability to make people change.
Yeah, that's the outcome.
That's a gift.
That's a gift. That's the outcome.
God has put in us, put me, put you, and other influential people in Baltimore, in Maryland, mm-hmm. to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. Right? People, they came from you. You played in Atlanta. They're like, you're this boy from West Baltimore. Mm-hmm. You all live in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. You're this boy from West Baltimore. You're Columbia. Mm-hmm. Like painting. So that is you don't think that's powerful?
Yeah. I mean, so. But again, from a non-egotistical.
No, you don't have. You can be know what I mean? Humble.
Right.
Always have humility. Yes. So, and that's what I think I can see it in you. Like you're like, I don't want to be that person.
No. So again, as a creative, the power comes in the imagination.
Yes.
And this is the one thing I think the education system sucks from our children.
Yes.
The ability to imagine.
Yes.
A future.
Yes.
Define and imagine a future that validates their humanity.
And that's why you have a waiting list.
Touche.
Because you put that in students and say you can expand outside of that mm-hmm. and be influential. Mm-hmm. You can be an activist. Mm-hmm. You can be however you want to be through your art. You can do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's powerful.
Yes. Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can look at it and think about like, okay, maybe I am powerful in some type of way.
To see young people.
Yeah.
Because I've been teaching for over 20 years now.
Right.
So I've known young people that actually grew into or became that which they imagined themselves to be as a young person. Yeah. I've watched that happen. That's power.
Yeah.
So I would concede that.
Yeah. And so you are a resident of the Motor House. I pass by there every day mm-hmm. when I pick up my daughter and we go home. I pass by. I've never been in there before, but you're a resident of the Motor House. How did you get that? Like, what does that mean?
So in 2015, the Motor House opened. First, I had to go through an application process. Mm-hmm. Dr. Leslie King Hammond was I don't know if you could say the facilitator of. She helped Barco.
Okay.
In the Deutsch Foundation, she helped them with the art space, right. Opening that art space. Right. For myself, Megan Lewis,
right.
Navashadaya.
Right.
Who else was there? I think Ada Pinkston
Okay.
was some of the first artists.
Okay.
Jazzy Studios,
Okay.
photography studios. Um, later, Mama Joy Scott. She was
Okay.
the first artist in residence at the Motor House. She was the first. But Amy Sherrill, at one time, she painted the Michelle Obama portrait at the Motor House.
Okay.
You know, there's been some extremely talented people come through there. Now, Yele Stitches, the fashion designer from Nigeria.
Yes.
So my Yoruba sister.
Yes.
So Derek Emery, like there are a lot of people at the Motor House.
Yes.
That makes that place a wonderful space to
Okay.
create. But after Joyce Scott left, then I became the artist in residence. And then I believe Shan Wallace, if I'm not mistaken, the photographer.
Okay.
Shan Wallace is the most recent artist in residence. But I still have a studio there.
Right.
But yeah, it's in a wonderful space. It's in Station North.
I'm gonna have to go in there.
Arts District. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to go in there and check it out. And let me ask you a question. I always ask people, like, there's two questions I ask at the end of my podcast. Like, the questions that I ask. But what is your before I ask those questions? There are a lot of artists coming up that are younger than you. So, who are some of your favorite artists?
Young folks specifically?
Yeah, like how do you think the young folks are doing?
How young? How young? Because there's some young folks under me that I think are now seasoned.
Are they?
Megan Lewis.
Okay, Megan Lewis.
Monica Kegwu.
Okay.
Killing it.
Okay.
Charles Mason III.
Charles Mason III.
Art Bachooks, another my Nigerian brother. I mean, tons. Will Watson.
Okay.
Chris Johnson, who also does community work in the community, works with children. Anthony McKissick's my age. He's not young. Or not one of the younger. There's so many.
Right.
So many.
Right.
Young artists. I literally could sit here for 10, 15 minutes just naming
them.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite pieces?
That I've created or
that you've created? One that you go, yes.
A mural or a studio painting?
Both.
Murals, that's hard. I'll say it has to be anyone with my daughter in it.
Okay.
Because my daughter is probably the most
beautifulest young
reproduced image.
She's a dancer.
She's a professional dancer, yes.
Yes, and I've seen some things on her.
Yeah, she's
an amazing dancer.
She's a dancer and she might not like me saying this, a dance movement therapist.
Dancing? I like that. You have to like that your dad said that. Yeah. A dancing movement therapist. You stay in West Baltimore still?
I do. I actually travel between Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
My wife lives in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
So I go back and forth between Richmond and West Baltimore.
Okay.
And when I'm here, I stay in the house where I grew up.
Yeah. Okay.
In Emerson Village.
Emerson Village.
With my mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. And real quick, let me say this: my mother, who is the president of her community association,
you said that. What's your mother's name?
Cynthia Shaw.
Cynthia Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she is the president of, and how is she influential in the community? When you told your mother you wanted to be an artist, what did she say?
I never really had to tell her.
Like she already
because she painted, right?
Okay.
My mother painted, so really I just did what she did.
Okay.
So she embraced so it's not like a becoming.
Yeah.
I went to again Hartford Heights.
Right.
Hartford Heights had foreign language,
right,
music,
right,
theater, visual art. Like I was exposed to all of that at 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Tremendous education.
And you were a graduate of Morgan State.
That was interesting.
Wait, we're gonna unpack it real. Why was it interesting?
Because I didn't start my college. I started at University of Maryland College Park.
Okay.
And that's where I pledged. Epsilon.
That's where you pledged.
Yeah, Epsilon Psi chapter. I eventually graduated from Morgan after hopping around from Institute. I took a class at Maryland Institute.
Didn't like it.
Catonsville, which is now BCCC Catonsville. BCCC, which was CCB, Baltimore City Community College,
Yeah.
Coppin.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I ended up at Morgan HBCU. Changed my life.
How did it change your life in a good way, bad way?
Well, it gathered me together, right? Again, the HBCU experience
is like no other.
It's like no other.
I think I mean, as much as HBCU has the HBCUs still struggle. We need to start supporting them financially, and so the institution can grow. Morgan State has definitely grown. They have gotten the support that they need. They have amazing professors there. The campus is amazing. So that is like that is the example of campuses growing, right? And money, is invested into HBCUs, but they need more. But it is. I went to an HBCU. It is a good experience. I mean,
it's a tremendous experience. Yeah, not perfect, but again, no. When I look at it, I don't look at it as one thing.
Yeah.
I can separate the lived experience of students among students who look like them and come from where they come from.
Right.
Relationships with the faculty.
Right.
Which is a very loving and nurturing relationship.
Right.
I separate that from administration.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then being an alumni of HBCUs is another experience.
Okay.
That So again, by the time I got to HBCUs, I had already pledged the fraternity. I was now paying for education myself, so I was working full-time swing shift at Bethlehem Steel Corporation because I had to pay for it myself.
Yeah.
And there was some benefits to that. It was very difficult, but one of the benefits of working there, they had tuition reimbursement.
Okay.
So not only was I making money, it was paying for my education.
Okay.
And I was raising 2 children.
Okay. So now let me ask you a question. I like to play it safe most of the time, but I do have to ask you that your work is very influential, right? When I drive down and see your Park Avenue, it's that beautiful painting, and there's different people that you paint. You different Michelangelo, Squeezy Kids, all these things, and as much as we don't want to say that community leaders is not the cause and effect, they are a little bit. Have you ever thought about painting leaders and talking to the community and painting things that have felt Baltimore, like letting them remember, like, this is felt Baltimore. Can we not do this again?
Interesting question.
Ooh.
Because when I paint the squeegee workers, I am doing that.
Okay.
Right. When I attempt to show them in their full humanity, it shines a light on those structures and individuals who have sought to dehumanize them.
And so what about leadership?
Leadership is a part of that. You know what I mean? It's a part of that. But
has it ever crossed your mind?
Again, I think.
Or will you feel like that's rocking the boat too much?
Nah, the boat is not an issue.
Okay.
The issue is seeing things for what they really are, not for what I want to see.
What to see?
You know, so I don't frame the situation from because I think the system conditions us to see individuals as an issue.
It's not the individual, it's the system.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter who is president of the school board as much. It doesn't matter who's the CEO of Baltimore City Public Schools.
Really?
No, because individuals don't beat systems. Individuals don't beat institutions.
So how do we break the system?
Now see.
Now that is what you.
So
breaking the systems is people getting out of the vote. Breaking the system.
Is it? Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, like.
That can. I'm not making this argument.
Pastors getting out more in the community. Our generations going out to mentor younger generations. It takes a village, right?
Okay.
It takes a village. So everybody has to be accountable for this village.
Accountability
is
accountability
is huge. So your artwork, when I drive down that street every day and I see your artwork and I see those influential people that are on there, I'm like, yeah, they did that. They did that. But what about the people that didn't do that? And I'm like, what? What do they look like? Who are they?
So are they also not byproducts of the same system that failed these children?
Absolutely.
Right. So then the question becomes, how do we change the system?
How do we do that?
So there has to be a decolonial approach.
Okay.
Now, that's very nuanced and layered.
Okay.
Because when you say and use terms like decolonial, anti-colonial, sometimes people freak out. Because a lot of people can't well, a lot of people can't.
It's 2024.
We talked about imagination and power.
Yes.
A lot of people can't imagine a world outside of capitalism.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they think the antithesis to capitalism is socialism.
Yes.
And it's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So when you say things, if you really want systemic change, you have to begin to pull away from undo things like capitalism. Yes. Capitalism it's like the system is not broken. It's doing what it's designed to do. You have winners and you have losers. You have the exploited and people who do the exploiting.
But then we have to start to shift that.
So how do you do that?
Maybe one day you'll write a painting on how to do that. You'll draw a painting for us of how to do that. Like a mural of how to like shift it in your mind, what it would look like.
What? Yeah, that's okay.
What you think it should look like to shift? Because there has to be something.
So I mean, because you look at it this way, we're still fighting for legislation, literally, to raise a minimum wage.
Oh.
There should be no minimum wage.
There shouldn't be.
You know, there should be a maximum wage.
It should be.
Now I know I'm starting to sound a little.
No, you're not.
You know what I mean?
You're not.
And again,
you're not.
But what capitalism does is it creates systems where you can have the amount of homeless people growing while billionaires are becoming richer.
We're richer.
You know what I mean?
At the same time.
And I don't mean this to take a stab at billionaires or people with money.
Yeah.
But you know, some people believe that you can't work within a capitalist system and not be a capitalist. First of all, you have to have capital.
You have to have capital to be a capitalist.
You know, you have to have capital even to fight capitalism.
You do.
How many of our ancestors and elders fought the good fight, but did not have the resources to? How many of them died poor?
Yes.
There's a long list of people and still dying poor. That is unacceptable.
And we have to change that.
We have to change that.
And so now, how are we going to do that? And I think that hopefully one day you will create a masterpiece of what you think that looks like. I'm putting it in the universe. What you think that looks like? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you're right. I have to be honest. Your paintings are amazing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, they're amazing. Mm-hmm. And now you're a professor at university. What university is your professor?
In a few weeks, I'll be starting my second semester at Micah.
Okay.
I'll be beginning teaching a painting class at Hopkins.
Okay.
And there's a course called Multicultural Art Education. I teach in the graduate school at Towson.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
A powerful black man being influential.
I'm not gonna fight you on that.
Let me have it.
I'm not gonna fight you.
You are an influential black man in our community through art and influencing young minds to be influential after you. You know what I mean? And I pay homage to that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And so before we end this, I want you to give me 3 things that you take in, 3 like advices that you would give to someone. 3 golden nuggets. I call them golden nuggets of advice you would give to our viewers of like what you've learned through life.
Ooh.
3 golden nuggets.
Number 1. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And your famous quote. I know it's hard because you probably have so many, but
3 golden nuggets.
okay.
One, try to see the world for what it is, not for what you want it to be.
Okay.
Right. That's it's one thing I try to definitely um, communicate to my biological children.
Yes.
To my daughter specifically. Always lead with compassion and seek deeper understanding.
Okay.
Don't stop at the surface.
Okay.
Always seek deeper understanding, but do it through the lens of compassion.
Okay.
When you do that, conflict, stress, the majority of it, confrontation, it can't find a home there. Yeah. And my quote, I can't remember the quote by Malcolm X, okay. So I'm not gonna butcher the quote.
Okay.
But it's real simple. Hurt people, hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people.
If you look at
yes, this is very true.
Any of the conflict that's going on in the world,
yes.
From the major wars that are happening to that Cat Williams interview last week.
Oh God!
Right?
Well, why did you bring that up?
Well, I brought it up because it's trending.
It's trending now.
You know.
I mean, but I didn't know he was gonna bring it up. I was definitely not. but
that's a classic example.
Do you feel like he was hurt?
There was pain there. You know what I mean? I mean, but you know, so I think that the interview was much richer than the sound bites and
you feel like he was a little salty?
I wouldn't say salty. You know, I know what it feels like to believe. I'm not saying this is the reality.
Yeah.
To believe that someone has something that should be yours. I know what that feels like.
Yes.
And I know what it looks like when people are communicating in a way from there's ego involved and there's hurt involved.
And that's what you've seen in that interview.
And the tough part, here's the if you want to call it a nugget, right? I'm gonna put it where the ghost can get it. The issue is if you have not matured to the point where you find yourself accountable, where you see the role that you played in your lack of success, or when you feel that someone is a gatekeeper, or that someone has something or is in a position that may be less talented or less intelligent, you know, and you lash out. The most important thing is to find the role that you played maybe in your own demise. At least try to do an assessment of that, because you may not have played a role in it, but you have to at least be aware and do away with the ego and try, you know, because when you do that, you make less I statements.
So you feel like he was hurt? You feel like he was not taking accountability for his failures?
Absolutely. And he spoke some truth.
He did smoke. He did.
He spoke some truth.
I think that what you said, I didn't know he was gonna bring him up. One, I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't do. I'm a fan of few people because fan is short for fanatic, but I do admire Cat Williams.
I do.
I admire.
And when I watched that interview, I watched the whole interview, and I was like, I could see what you're saying. Like there was some hurt where, you know, he just didn't get that shot, like or he didn't get.
He got the shot.
He got the shot, but he just didn't want to. Okay.
I think two things happened. One,
there was some lines that have been crossed in the. There was lines that were crossed. He was not willing to cross. These lines have been here for decades.
That's fair.
I think now that the black community is now crossing these lines, the white community is going to cross them like some decades, right? And so those lines that black community cross are taboo. In the white community, it is what it is.
So here's the thing with Cat Williams. If in fact it was a conscious effort and you chose not to do the things, then don't turn around and be critical of the folks
and that's the
who
part.
did make those decisions, because that's their personal business.
And that's how I'm like the person where okay, if that's what they did, that's what they did. I can't be mad. That's what they did. So that's why when people be like, oh, they'll bring up Kardashian. I'm like, yo, if that's how they got it, that's how they got it. I can't be mad of that's how they got it. So it's like,
I know that's not what I'm going to do.
Exactly. It's like, okay, you didn't choose that. You didn't choose that route. Okay, great. Doesn't mean that they're the bad person. Doesn't mean that they're wrong that they chose that route. That's just the route they chose.
Because at the end of the day, if in fact there is a such thing as the black community, then those two are their brothers. Each and everybody he critiqued.
Where are their brothers?
It's his brothers.
What do you mean if there is a thing called black community?
Well, I follow the belief that Baba Dick Gregory, may he rest in power.
Yes.
He said there is no longer a black community. There was a time.
Why do you say that?
That's
interesting.
Well, there was a time when we controlled the food that went in and out of our communities.
Power.
We controlled the utilities.
Power.
we controlled the education system.
Power.
We controlled our faith-based systems.
Power.
We even had black doctors, black dentists, black lawyers. You know what I mean? Now it was forced segregation, but we thrived as a community.
We thrived in it.
Now, if you look at it, if you really,
we can't even get to one. We can't even agree.
If you simply drove from east to west or west to east on North Avenue,
yes,
you can't do that and tell me that there's a such thing still as the black community. Now, there's still black people.
But
there's still black folk.
But it's not a community.
It's not a community.
Oh, now you starting to have that discussion. Is that what? It's not a black community.
No, and there's some wonderful people out there doing the work.
But it's very, when you look at the bigger, and it's very little of them.
Yeah.
And that lack of black community is way bigger than those little people. So how do we expand that circle, right?
You start in Head Start, nursery school, what used to be called nursery school, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade.
Yes.
You get them before they get to the third grade. Right? Now, that's in school.
Right.
One of the things that my colleagues like to do in education is say it starts at home.
Yes.
I do not like that term, and
Why?
I reject it.
Why?
Because what that does, you can't say it starts at home and say it takes a village. Because the school is a part of the community.
Yes. Do you remember when the teachers used to come to your home?
They still do.
Do they?
Teachers do home visits. I know teachers that do.
Maybe
not. Well, here's the difference. There was a time when teachers lived in the community.
Yes.
So you saw them at the barbershop. You saw them at the beauty salon.
And now the teachers leave before the bus.
You saw them in church. Yeah, I mean, again, but again, yes.
They do.
Yes, and
they don't want to live in their community, like you said.
They don't live in the community.
Like when people, when I gotta be honest, when people say when I told people I was moving to West Baltimore, when I heard I was moving to the city, it's like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like, yo, I'm a city girl. Like I can go. I live in the county.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with living on this street. I don't have a problem living in West Baltimore. I feel like if you want to make an impact, you gotta live in the place you want to make an impact in. Right.
Absolutely.
So
I think police officers should live life. They should have police homes or houses the way that you have firehouses.
They have a place. Okay.
You know what I mean? You have firemen may do a 12-hour shift.
Okay. They do have officers that do 12-hour shifts.
Yeah, but those firehouses are in the community.
Okay.
And firemen may literally live. You can cook, you clean, you shower.
In the districts they stay in that building.
So, police officers, at minimum, if you're not going to say in order to work in the city, you need to live in the city.
Some of them do have that program where you live in the community. Go ahead and say it.
Not like firefighters. So I mean that even when you're on duty, you're in
the community. But those no firefighters go home and live in the county.
Not all of them.
A lot of them.
Some of them. But they spend enough time in that firehouse with their colleagues and in the community. Yeah. It's a difference.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And again, I don't mean to rag on.
No.
I'm not ragging on.
That is your views.
I also believe teachers should
yes,
live in a community where they teach.
Yes.
You know, now I chose that, but we used to have a teacher next door program. If I don't know if they brought it back, maybe they did. You used to have dollar, you could buy dollar homes. Like there are ways to bring that community aspect back.
Do you think politicians stay in the community?
Yes.
Do you think politicians' kids just go to private schools?
I don't mind. I don't. No. Because I don't count other people's coins. And
no, but I'm saying like you want to change the public schools, but your kids don't even go to the public school. How?
Well, again, that's their parenting choice, right?
It's a
no,
community.
my children will buy products of Baltimore City Schools.
Okay, yes, but you get
But
that.
now hold on. Their mother was also an educator.
Okay.
That she inspired me to become an educator.
Okay.
So both of their parents were educators.
Okay.
And they always went to a school where either a family member taught there,
okay,
or one of their parents went there.
Okay, so what
that's not everyone's reality though. That's all I'm saying.
But it should be. You just said cops should do it, teachers should do it. Why they shouldn't do it? They're part of the community.
No, I'm saying I'm talking about right now. I'm not in a mode of judgment. If you choose to send, and you can afford to, you choose to send your children to private school. That's your business.
It's not that. Let's be honest. Okay, I'm going to say this. I was living in Frederick, right? We don't have a lot of private schools. Why? Because we have good public schools.
Absolutely.
Baltimore City has lots of private schools. Why? Because the public schools are not that great.
Well, it's two reasons. One, you used to have a parochial Catholic school system.
Okay.
But that goes back a long way.
That goes back way.
That goes back a long way.
Yeah.
But also you have this thing called city charters now.
Yes, which my daughter goes to a charter school.
So a city charter is a quasi.
They're not that fabulous either. I'm going to just say it. I'm on the record, off the record. Like they could do better too. There's
some that are actually doing some good work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But yeah, they struggle as well.
They do.
They struggle.
They don't get the same funding. You know what I mean?
Like, well, actually, they get more funding.
Oh,
charters get more funding.
Well, I'm not gonna say the school my daughter goes to. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like they don't have speed bumps. They don't have somebody walking across the street. They don't have cameras in there. They don't have that. Like so, these young minds are walking across the street through speeding cars. They don't have the safety.
So you as a parent or parents can advocate for those speed bumps.
Oh yes, I will be.
Advocate for those speed bumps.
I'm huge on being vocal about what needs to change in the community.
I get that.
And that is something that I feel like, as you and me said, we all have to be accountable for that. And you said something like you can see if you go from North Avenue and you go.
If you just rode east to west.
Community.
Now that's not a full indication of the city of Baltimore.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
But if we're talking about...
Why would you say that?
Because let's be clear that I could drive you through certain neighborhoods in Baltimore and you would think you were in Montgomery County.
I know what neighborhoods
you might think... You know what I mean? So
John Hopkins.
but that's also Baltimore.
I know. So when you talk about those places, gentrification is happening.
Oh, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal. And so you, as a West Baltimore resident, born and raised, as an artist, the things you do in the community, when you paint those murals and things like that, do you feel some type of responsibility?
Oh, it hurts every day I drive. I drive up and down North Avenue. It hurts.
It does.
And I'm just being fully honest.
I'm glad that you're being honest about that.
And I'm also not super optimistic.
Why?
You know what I mean?
But that's part that's disappointing for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm hoping that when I start this, did my third season, I'm doing it in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I'm like, people need to be more optimistic and figure out how we can be more optimistic and change the narrative and change the trajectory, because now Baltimore will be my forever home.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think I get sad when people go, "Oh, you stay in West Baltimore?" They're building up Mondawmin Mall for something, but I hear gunshots at Mondawmin Mall. I You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like I don't want to see this community, East Baltimore, no parts of this black community continue to be pessimistic and not optimistic. And so, how do you, me, those, all those young minds, that you mentioned, those artists that you mentioned, come together to say, how can we change this? Because we got to do something different, right? Because I know when you paint those murals, you feel some type of pain. It's like, even though I'm painting these beautiful murals in this community, it's still broken.
Yeah, that's the work.
You know?
That's the work. A lot of my colleagues that's doing that activist work that you spoke of.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are more optimistic than hopeful. But you still got to do the work.
You got to be both, though.
Nah, I'm not a hope person.
Really?
If I had to choose optimism over hope.
Really?
Yeah, hope. That keep hope alive. No, that went out. That went out with Freddie Gray.
What?
Nah,
I'm. You said it went out with Freddie Gray.
Did.
Why do you say that?
Because that was a gut punch for me.
Why?
Because I teach the Freddie Grays and have been teaching the Freddie Grays for over 20 years.
I'm glad you said you teach the Freddie Grays.
You know what I mean?
Did you say, yeah, we talking language now.
So when I'm in that classroom, I can look in the child's eyes and tell when they
done checked out.
They done checked out.
The streets are now controlling.
And over the past 20 years, I've watched the number of students who have checked out increase.
So who do you hold accountable for that? Besides the parents, because let's really get to the nitty-gritty of it. We go to work 9 to 5. Our kids spend most of their time with their educators and their peers, and those parents have to work 2 or 3 jobs, and so they eat lunch, breakfast at that school, and sometimes their lunch is their dinner. Who do we hold accountable?
So, to answer that question, earlier in the interview on the podcast, I spoke about systems, right? And I said that the system is not broken. Yeah. Right? If the system is not broken, then things are happening and playing out the way they're supposed to play out. Right? Right? So there's no one to hold accountable.
Right.
Right. Again, dichotomous thinking, fault finding. You're looking to someone to point the finger and say, hey, it's your fault. Right? Whereas if we approached it as a community, if we approached it from, rather than say, point the finger, and more approach it from a communal perspective and say, hey, and be like that young squeegee worker who took that change and gave it to.
Yeah. And when I say
you see what I'm saying?
I'm not saying a certain person.
No,
I'm saying a system, right? So if we hold the system of politics, if we hold the system of city council, those are all systems. Those are all, if we hold the system of the education system, it's a system.
So I vote in every election, right? Every year. Right. Because at 20, my father told me it was the last day to register to vote. I was leaving out to go to Morgan State University.
We got policies on that. We got all types of stuff on that ballot.
My dad said, if you don't register to vote, don't come home.
Don't come home.
So I vote in every election.
Right.
But voting's not the answer. That's not gonna fix it.
No, it's not.
You see what I'm saying?
No, it's not.
So if that is a truth of mine, then I don't hold politicians accountable, responsible, or accountable.
We're not gonna be okay. Education system.
But that's just politics, right?
Yeah, that's one piece.
I put 20 plus years in the Baltimore City Schools.
You did.
Right? During that time, you don't have to be a certified teacher to work in a school.
Okay.
To be present in a school.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To participate, to come to PTA or PTO.
Right.
To recognize that the educator, your child's teacher, is not your enemy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Begin to build relations. Not focus on education a lot, but begin to build relationships between educators.
You have to focus on education.
And parents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To bridge that gap and let folks know that successful education is a team effort.
Right.
Parent, teacher, student.
Right.
Or parents, teacher, student.
Right.
That has broken down.
Broken.
That is broken in the overwhelming majority of schools. Parents come up to the school to raise hell.
They do.
When their child fails.
They do.
Or, you know what I mean?
They do.
Part of that is teachers didn't do what was needed, and schools, to reach out to that parent.
Yes.
To embrace those folk in the community. Again, it starts in the home. The school is a schoolhouse.
Yes.
If your school is a schoolhouse, that's the home.
When does the teacher make a home visit?
Before school starts. It has to be before
do they make the home visit throughout school? The kid is failing.
But it has to be before the first day of school.
If this kid is failing.
So go ahead. I'm gonna give you. You've been asking me for solutions. I'm gonna give you one.
Yes.
We need trimesters in Baltimore City Public Schools.
Okay. Trimesters.
Now, if I see trimesters, they owe me. but we need trimesters, right?
Yes.
In order to have trimesters, all schools have to have proper heating and proper air conditioning.
There you go.
Right? That's a simple solution.
Simple solution.
But there's so much learning loss between June and September.
Yes.
We need to do away from that.
Yes.
They should go to school for 3 months.
Yes.
Have a month off. Or 3 weeks off. Go to school for 3 months.
Yes.
Have 3 weeks off. Go to school for 3 months. Have 3 weeks. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That you eliminate learning loss.
Yes.
Right? You compensate teachers appropriately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the relationship between teachers and students and parents grows because you're spending an entire year with folks.
Yes.
And you're still getting enough time off because you're getting 3 breaks instead of 1 summer break. You know what I mean?
I like that.
That's an answer.
That's a solution.
That's a solution.
We got a solution for that. So what's your next job? What's your next art piece? What are you gonna do? You paint in the winter?
Not outdoors. No, I'm 50. I'll be 50. I'll be 55 in August. Them days.
You like that cold hit different.
And I'm born in the summertime. So.
Okay, so the cold hits different. So your next piece is indoors. What are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm working on the Squeegee series.
Okay, the Squeegee
and
series.
It's titled Crossing Guards.
Okay, Crossing Guards. Okay.
Because they sit at the crossroads.
Okay.
And a lot happens at the crossroads.
They do.
We're not gonna get into that.
We're not gonna get into that. That's a whole other hour right there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're not gonna even get into that because that is. Oh, that's very sad.
Yeah. So.
How do you feel like your painting's gonna affect that?
Well, hopefully, and again, I've started this series long before that incident with that young man.
Yes, with the young man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
I feel that it was inevitable.
It was going to happen.
It was going to happen.
Eventually.
You know what I mean?
Happened to him.
Them. It happened to that young man and the victim.
Yes.
And that victim's
family. I apologize. It happened to
Well, no, and that victim's family and that young man's family. Yes. And that victim's, if you want to use the word community, and that young man. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it happened to Baltimore.
It happened to Baltimore.
So it's a tragedy for Baltimore.
Yeah. But that puts a label on Baltimore. When you live in Frederick, they go, we don't want to go to Baltimore because of the squeegee kids. They say that.
Yeah.
That puts a label on Baltimore. I don't think y'all understanding. People outside of Baltimore saying we don't want to go to Baltimore because of the squeegee kids and what happened with that squeegee kid on the street. So it does put a label.
Mm-hmm. That's an unfortunate situation.
How is your art going to change that?
I don't necessarily have the answer. All I can say is I appreciate the notoriety. I appreciate for you inviting me to talk about that. Yeah. But again, if in fact you cannot see the humanity in those young folks holding that squeegee, because they're not that squeegee may be a nuisance to some, but take that squeegee out their hand. You're removing the last semblance of their humanity, their dignity left. That squeegee is like a scepter. It's like a crook and flail. It's like what pharaohs would hold. It's that meaningful to them. Because the practice is antiquated. Everybody has windshield wiper fluid and windshield. But what they're doing is they're trying to hold on to the last bit of humanity that they have that the system has not yet taken from them.
And that when I hear people outside of Baltimore talk about that in a negative way, it does hit me differently.
Yeah.
I know I've worked with the squeegee kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I had worked with the community division in Baltimore Police Department, we had to work with the squeegee kids, and I seen a different light from them. And I would ask those boys like, "Why are you still in this corner?" And one of the boys was like, "I see your mother knows you're down here. My mom's a nurse." He goes, "My mom doesn't want me standing out here, but I want to make my own money."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever his story was, he wanted to be out there to make his own money. I'd rather for them to be making money like that than to be making money selling drugs on the block, to be robbing.
Well, let's be clear. They're gonna make money. You're right.
Yeah, but that's, you see what I'm saying? Like, they're going to. I'd rather that.
We live in a capitalist system.
Yeah, I'd rather that.
So
and maybe I'm wrong for saying. Am I wrong for saying that? I don't know. Am I wrong for saying that? Like,
I don't think it's a matter of right or wrong.
I just think that however they hook. I'd rather for to see the boys squeaking than the white man asking, begging me for money. I'm gonna just say that. Like, you want to clean up, white man? This is a white man's world. You want me to give you this money? You begging for it, doing nothing for it, while this young man that's going to school in the morning is hustling. That's a difference. It's a difference. This capitalist world that we live in, where we say we can't be racist because we don't have power, and they're standing there asking me for money, and you just want me to put money in your cup just because you asked me, when this young man's got a squeegee in his hand and he's working in the cold, who am I going to give that money to first? That young man that's working. So I hope that you paint that picture of, like, it is humanity. It is the last of them. It is those kids that this is all we got. And we're going to do what we do. I mean, I could have stayed out in the cold.
I knew that.
And I hope what I said wasn't offensive.
No, but I knew we were in trouble when I saw children squeegeeing in the rain.
Yes. Like this little kid, my daughter's age, in the rain, where traffic is coming every direction, and I'm just hoping you don't get hit by a car. And it's like, you're so tiny.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here? What is the system doing to get them off of that tiny little concrete in the middle of the road? What is our system doing for that? I hope that your painting shows what our system should do to get them off of that.
Well, we'll see.
Because I don't want them to be there. Because they're too tiny.
Now I have to paint squeegees and homeless people.
And I hope I don't. I hope I didn't offend. Like,
no.
I'm just being very transparent and authentic about what's happening, what I see. And I know those little kids could be my son, your son, you know, and it could be anybody's son. And we don't want our sons out there. We don't know their story. I don't think anybody sits down and asks them their story.
Yeah.
And that's the part that hurts me. Like, how did you get here? And how can we get you out of here? And what systems can we put in place to make sure you're not here again?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to. What you think?
I think so. Thank you for this.
No, thank you. It's always good to talk to folk.
I hope you
because most artists just do their thing in their studio or off on that. They don't get a chance to die.
And I have to say, like, so every show I'm going to like talk about Black people and Black business owners. And this candle is from a Black owner. She made these candles actually, poured them by herself, put this wood in here, and her name is Chris Roman Tyrant, and it smells amazing. And this is called Gentleman. That's what I had burning.
Oh, really?
In my house. Yeah. And so, shout out to Chris for making that beautiful candle and making my house smell so yummy. And thank you for coming out tonight.
Thanks for having me.